Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. I'm back. My name is David Petrangelo, and I'll be here as one of your hosts to this journey of all things video games. Steve is not able to join us this week, but it is myself and Bobby. Bobby, I'm happy to be back, man. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I am. I'm relaxed, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it because I don't want to brag. But it was a nice vacation, and that's it. But I did play some games, so I have stuff to talk about. I'm not coming with a blank slate, which is nice.
I don't know how this vacation would be any better if there were not games involved. Because, like,
Exactly.
really, that's the whole point
Exactly.
of vacation to me is going to play games.
I mean, I say I did nothing, but I did play a decent amount of games. So we'll talk about that. What we've been playing over the last week. I listened to the episode that you guys recorded from last week. Very interested in this whole Minecraft situation. I had no idea what it was, just like it sounds like you guys didn't. And it may be one of those like downloads, and then one day I'll pick it up and start playing it. But great discussion if anyone hasn't heard that. So that's from last week's episode. Steve and Bobby talked about Minecraft Legends. Now I got the name wrong.
Yeah.
Legends. There it is.
That's the right name. That is the right name.
That is the right name. Also, just want to say up front, because I always forget to do this up front, check out our YouTube page. Our YouTube page has this podcast on there in video form. If you also want to see us talk about games and some clips of the games that we're talking about, because sometimes, we reference visuals and things like that. At least you can see it while we're talking about it as well, and some gameplay videos and everything as well. So, okay. But without further ado, let's talk about some of the stuff we've been playing, sir. I'll go first because I wasn't here last week, and because it's a review that's up on consolecreatures.com right now, and it's a game I think lots of people should play, and is potentially could be one of those silent top 10 games of the year kind of thing. At least it sounds like so far for me. Yeah, that is Dredge. Dredge is
not Dread. Dredge.
Not Dread. Dredge. Okay. Yeah. It is it's sort of presented as like a horror thriller fishing game. That's kind of what the marketing kind of was around it when you look up trailers and things like that. And that's the gist of what you're doing. But Dredge is sort of a dark exploration and mini RPG, I would say. So you are a fisherman. You are on a small sort of tugboat where you have a couple of fishing rods and a net and things you can catch crabs with, to sort of fill up your boat and sell them to make some money. Very simple, like overall, I guess, goal that kind of keeps you going at first. But there's so much more underneath the surface, the water surface. I will just throw out puns constantly because it seems to always work with this game. That there's there's so much more going on in this. There's like supernatural things. There's a lot of like really strange characters, untold stories and backgrounds. There's sort of science fiction stuff. I mentioned sort of a horror feel. Things get really dark and you start seeing things. It's really interesting. You're always only controlling the fishing boat that you have. Right. And you're just going from, little town to little town that are on these small islands and a big, massive map that has some, open areas that you can drive across and fish and things like that. And there's people sort of, asking you to do tasks for them. Oh, hey, help me with this. And, oh, hey, can you catch a fish so you can help feed our town? Or, hey, I lost this thing on a shipwreck. Can you go get it for me? It starts with that. And then on your journey there and back, or even with this person that you're talking to, some really strange stuff starts happening. And it's very, at first the game feels like it might be rooted in reality, and it definitely is not. And that makes the story, the characters, the world dark, but also and very, very interesting. So there's a lot of stuff you can explore just through the story and the characters you meet, but also just the map itself and the waters themselves and the little islands and everything themselves. You never get off your boat, like I mentioned, but you still sort of explore the area. And man, I sat, I sat on the lawn chair by the pool on vacation playing this game for hours. It was awesome. I love this game. I think it is really, really great. It controls really well. It sounds amazing. It has a really good art style that has like a mix between sort of like this CG type of look that you would see in, an animated movie and also hand-drawn characters and fish and creatures that you catch, and
Right.
it's sort of like this really interesting balance, and it's all sort of like shaded around these like with dark corners and really thick outlines and everything, so it all feels like it's very much drawn on paper and sort of gives it a little bit of an extra creepy feel. And it's really fun. The other thing is that the main sort of gameplay hook of it, I guess, is when you're catching something, you see like ripples in the water. I think they call it unsettled waters, I think is sort of like what they
Right.
sort of call it in the game. You just press X, A, depending on what console you're playing it on, and the fishing line immediately drops and you can immediately start catching the fish. You don't have to sit there like other fishing games and be like, I gotta wait for that nibble, gotta wait for that nibble. Oh, I missed it. Ah, shit. There it goes.
Right.
Ah, damn. I hate that in fishing games. I don't know about you, but man, like it's so
No,
annoying sometimes.
it takes, I don't want to say the fun, but it slows the pace down. Maybe I would say
Yeah. Yeah,
it breaks
exactly. Yeah.
pacing more than anything.
Yeah.
But I
Especially
totally get
like
what you're saying.
Yeah, especially like a game like, I know it's definitely not a main part of the game, but a game like Hades, which is like so chaotic and so fast. They have fishing in there. You just sort of get extra little items and things you can unlock with it. But when you're fishing, literally the whole game just stops. You have to wait for a nibble. You have to press X right at the right time, and then maybe you get something good. And it's like, okay, well, was that worth it? I don't know. I'd rather just go to the next stage and start fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Dredge is a much like slower type of game, but it's still, it always keeps the pace and the time going because you just immediately press the button and then like a little mini game pops up on the left side of the screen. So it's always
Right.
like a circular, um, I guess, interactive space where your line kind of goes around in a circle and you have to hit it, sort of like a timing event, sort of like a quick time type of idea, right at the right time. And then your line gets closer and closer to the surface. It, you won't lose the fish, but you will catch it faster, essentially, is what it is. And then you get it and you put it in your inventory and you sort of do a little bit of inventory management, a la Resident Evil style. But you can expand your inventory as it goes on. You get more money. You discover new fish. Some fish have like really weird supernatural things, like they have 3 heads, or it's just a skeleton, or and you have to figure out why it's like that. And you can only find things at certain times of day and certain areas of the map, and all these little things that you don't expect when you first start because it's not
Right.
really laid out for you, but you slowly trickle down all the story and the world building based on what you discover on your own. And that's why I think this game is great, is because it creates atmosphere and allows you to explore at your own pace. Um, and it's great. Dredge is an awesome game. I played it on Switch. It was great on handheld. I would say the one thing on handheld with Switch is that the text is pretty small. That's the only disadvantage. And I didn't find an option, at least when I was playing, for making the text a little bit larger. So depending on what kind of player you are and how good your eyes are or are not, that may be a little bit
Right.
of a thing, but that's the only disadvantage to it. But it works great as a handheld game. You can just pause it, press power and switch, put it away, pick it back up, and you'll be
It's a
fine with where you
bite-sized
left
game,
off.
basically. I like that
Yeah, you can play it bite size for
idea.
sure because it goes on day cycles,
Right.
and the day cycle is sort of part of what you need to manage through the game too, but in a good way.
Mhm.
It's not like a constant ticking clock where like, oh, it's nighttime. Oh, well, you screwed up. It's over now. You can just constantly play and just pause at any time, and it's great. So I highly recommend Dredge. I know there's lots of games coming out between now and the end of the year, but this is going to be at least in discussion for my top games of the year. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
It sounds great. I mean, really, what more could you ask for? I mean, it's got. I mean, the fishing thing is cool and all, but like, I like the world building more than anything. Like, I like games that build world through not inherently throwing in your face. I guess kind of like Dark
Yeah.
Souls does.
Yep.
And that's what you're kind of telling me. It kind of does. It just builds the lore through just you exploring, and I love that. So like that alone caught my interest. So, like I'm probably gonna check it out as soon as I get some time with my Steam Deck
Yes. Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah. Steam Deck would
it'd be
work
better on
great.
Steam Deck just because you can magnify. Like you can press. I think it's like there's like the Steam button L1. You can magnify text if the game's too small on the screen,
Yep.
which I'm kind of surprised the Switch doesn't allow you to do.
It would be nice. I mean, the cool thing about this game is whether the text is too small, too big, like perfect, like whatever it is, it's pretty minimalist when it comes to the UI. which I enjoy. So you can really look at your surroundings and really see what's happening around you. The
Yeah.
text really only pops up like when the game stopped. So it's not like you feel like you need to read something really quickly and it's too small and anything. It like once the UI, once you're done fishing or talking to someone,
Right.
the screen is essentially like just the boat and then a couple little things on the side and like that's it, and like the sort of night day cycle which is at the very top of the
Right.
screen. It's very minimal and it's great. It's absolutely great, which is cool because it looks awesome. The lighting is amazing, the sound effects are awesome, the water effects, which is a really big part since you're always on the water, they look great even on a small Switch screen. I can't imagine what they'll look like on a more powerful machine.
Yeah.
um
Seriously.
it's great. It's really really fun. It's easy to sink a lot of time into it and not realize, oh shit, there goes 45 minutes. It's really good. It's really really great. So yeah, if you get a chance to try it, I think after you like play it for a couple hours, I was like absolutely hooked. I would anticipate a lot of people would be in that same in that
Right.
same boat as well. So yeah, I really
Fishing
liked
puns
it.
are usually the pretty easiest to reel in. So like,
Yeah.
just throw them out.
just
Throw them
just
out.
toss it out there, see what happens.
No, it's cool. I'm definitely gonna check it out. It's I actually just put it on my wish list just because I want it. But
Yeah,
I
it's
like
excellent.
I like small games like this. Like it's a nice way to, I don't know, break the monotonousness of like these big budget AAA games these days. It's so much.
Yeah,
You get to play the same game
100%.
over and over. Like you get these little small indie games like Dredge or what was the last one you did? There's a couple you did that recently.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god, what was the one I just
You
played
literally just
before
did one a
that?
couple weeks ago that was like I actually went and bought it. Oh geez.
Oh, Curse of the Sea Rats, that was good. It
Curse
was
of
a
the Sea
little bit
Rats.
longer. That was there for sure. That's a great game. That's really fun. So I highly recommend that.
And then you
And
did
Chia, but Chia is also a larger game, but still, like the vibe of all three of those games are a great, like you said, sort of like breath of fresh air from the typical stuff, I would say, or at least a lot of the AAA stuff. So
oh,
yeah,
Climb and
those.
Wrench, like stuff like that, like Climb and
Oh
Wrench. Like I still want to play that. I know like it was kind of like a mixed bag free, but like games like that, like they're great way to clean your palate.
yes, for sure.
That's what it was. Yeah, I was thinking about like what game was like, because a banjo kind of I don't want to say
Yeah, the
spin off,
Banjo
but like
Kazooie kind. Yeah.
yeah,
So
games
for
like that.
Dredge, if anyone's interested, we're saying that it's a small indie game, and it is, it's pretty like lower scale, I would say, but done really really well. I ran into absolutely zero bugs, any issues, nothing. It says on my Switch played for quote 10 hours or more, so 10 and a half, 11 hours, something like that is probably what it took
Yeah,
me.
about that sounds fair.
And
That's
that's
pretty good.
just to like, yeah, that's to complete the story and do a decent amount of the side stuff. There was more to discover. There's literally over 120 or 110 different types of creatures that you can fish and discover, and I think I
Right.
got somewhere in the 90s. And that was around 10 to 11 hours, so it's a pretty good and reasonable size if anyone's looking for something like that until, you know whatever, until Zelda comes out or something like that, or Star Wars or something. So um that's I highly recommend it. But Bobby, you've been playing something that I want to actually ask you about, because you've been playing the next Dead Island game, and I said this before we hit record, but I know almost nothing about either of these games. I just remember the marketing being a big thing for the first one,
Yeah.
and then it getting like mixed reviews, I would say, from what I remember. And then
Yep.
because
That's
I
about
never really
right.
paid attention to the first one, I didn't really pay attention to the second. Tell us about Dead Island 2.
So you don't need to know much about Dead Island 2.
Okay.
Thankfully, they're starting fresh. And given the very, very tumultuous development cycle, yeah, I think it's probably the best to keep it fresh,
Sure.
keep it clean, and basically, um, the build up in Dead Island is basically, I mean, it's a zombie game, so don't go in expecting God of War storytelling or like something of that caliber. It's a zombie game. You're basically going around bashing zombies, but it depends on your character. So like the thing with Dead Island is these games always had like a group of characters you could pick from. They all have their own backstories. They all have their own special abilities. It really depends on who kind of resonate with. For me, I picked Ryan, who I actually thought was a firefighter, but it was about like 10 hours where I figured out He was actually a gigolo. So like I picked the firefighter thinking he's the most like competent one, or he's. I just liked his character, but no, he's a stripper slash gigolo who's looking for his brother, and
So
basically
he's dressed up as like a firefighter. Is that
he was
the
a
idea?
firefighter. I thought it was legitimate because he had the shirt, he had everything, and I'm like, this
Nice.
guy looks cool. And then yeah, it turns out I was wrong, but I like the game a lot more than the reviews are kind of selling. I know it's like reviewing 6s and 7s, mostly 7s, which is pretty good. 7 is
Yeah.
a good score, so
Yep.
I don't know anybody who thinks 7's bad, but like it's a good game. But I mean, I like the zombie bashing stuff. Like it's just something I can play while I'm watching a show, or like if I'm doing something in the background. I don't have to worry about focusing too much on the story because
Mm.
it's just like the thing with Dead Island is they kind of they I don't want to say they shrunk down the scope, but they reworked it. So I mean, Dead Island 1 was open world. Dead Island 2 is hubs, like hubs. So basically, you'd have like Beverly Hills, which is one hub. It's a pretty decent sized map.
I like that.
You
I
can
like the sort of hub setup. I like that
I
style.
prefer to open world because it lets you focus on that section. It lets you go through the collectibles, go through
Yep.
like basically the setup is you go to the maps. Like I said, you go to Beverly Hills, for example. You have to either you can do your side quest, you can do the main missions, you can explore for fuse boxes, which give you like special items, power ups, all that jazz. So like it breaks up the monotonous of going to the open world and just exploring everything. So
Right.
that in itself is one thing I like better. The combat is probably the biggest improvement because it's it's a lot more gory than the first one. It's probably the goriest game I've played in a long time. I
Really?
don't know if you kind of looked at the marketing, but they had like a flat. It's called the Flesh System, which I
No, I
actually
didn't
want to
see
look
that
at.
part. I saw some trailers, but they were like cinematics and doesn't do much for
Those
me.
things do no justice. So basically, the
Yeah.
Flesh System is called the fully locational evisceration system for humanoids, and basically, it's a procedural system that's applied to every enemy. So look, depending on where you hit them and with what you hit them with, it reacts to that weapon. So if you hit them with a
Okay.
mace, it'll crush their skin and it'll flatten it, and it'll keep if you keep pulverizing, it'll just flatten until it explodes. If you go with a machete, you can see it when you slash. Like it mimics the slash patterns, the way you're
Interesting.
slashing, and the harder you slash, like you're gonna pull the skin off, you're gonna pull the muscle, and you can see it dangling there as you're hitting it. So it's very very realistic in
Oh,
that sense,
man.
and you can do some really nasty things with it. So like for example, if you want to deal with a zombie that's rushing at you, you could throw your sword at them if you have a sword, and it impale them wherever you hit them. So it'll slow them down, and then you can pull out your mace. Or my personal thing was the bow sticks. Like I found a bow, like Donatello's bow, and I would just beat back like 10 to 12 zombies at a time with it. You would just hit them over and over and over, and you would see just blood shooting out of all of them from every angle. So you're covered in blood, and they did a really good job with making it feel like a very gruesome zombie game. So that's kind of what the biggest pull for me is the combat, and they excelled at that. I know that I'm hearing mixed reviews on that, but like I think it's probably the best zombie
It flows
battle
well and
system I've
everything.
played.
Like it doesn't feel like too janky when you're doing a lot,
No,
because sounds like
it's
there's a
so
lot of
responsive. It's responsive. That's my
okay.
favorite thing. It's so
Yeah.
responsive. They give you the freedom to deal with zombies in a bunch of ways. So like I
Right.
can't remember the first one too much. Like there were environmental things that you could do where you could like pour water on the floor and then have the zombies come to you and shock them. But in this one here, they elevated that, so you still have that, but you will have like jerry cans where you can like pour water now and make patterns and like plan where you want to pull the zombies. So if you want to like plan
Right.
like if you want to like 3-step bump, so if you want to pour like one area with water and then have the like a light drop on that fixture there and electrocute that area, and then the second area you can pour oil, which will light them on fire as they come after you. That, and it just gives you there's a lot of environmental risks in housing, and they elevate it to the point where you need to use those to deal with zombies, because there's a lot more this time. There's easily 6 or 7, up to 8, 9 even groups of zombies attacking you at all times, and it's a very satisfying game to me. Like, it's just like, I know it's very mindless like a zombie, but like you're able to just like beat these things to death, and it's rewarding in itself. That's the coolest part
Yeah.
about the game for
So
me. But
if it feels good like this, like to me, what always felt, even though it's a very different engine, it's like what 14 years old at this point. Like Left 4 Dead always really worked for me
right,
with just the way, maybe it was more like the setup and the back and forth and stuff, like that sort of style was it. But it felt good to me, regardless whether I was playing as an infected or whether I was playing as a human or, offline, online, whatever, single player, multiplayer, or something. It sounds like this, it just, as long as it feels good and it flows well, then you're going to have a good time, even if it feels, like you said, like a little bit mindless.
that's the best thing about it. Is like it's just it's something you can just put on at night and you know
Not take
spend
too
3 or 4 hours.
seriously.
Yeah, spend three
Yeah.
or 4 hours while you're catching up on your podcast or whatever. And like that's what I like about it. Um, there's a couple of changes they did. So they did away with skill trees, Dam Buster Studio, which I actually think is a great idea. So instead of what you're doing now is using skill cards like in card brawlers. So like you'll find random skill cards spread out through Beverly Hills or Bel Air, or you actually go through a studio lot in the movie in Hollywood Hills, and you're going through like a back alley, and then you're going through like an Aztec forest, and then you're going through the third one I think was like a 1930s like gangster movie. Like it's cool. So you go
Nice.
through all these movie sets and you're fighting zombies and you're laying traps for them. And you're
Yeah.
finding skill cards as you're fighting them. So like one might want to improve your stamina, the other one might give you health on impact. So if you're about to get hit, you can parry them, you'll get your health back, and then you can do like triple or even 4 times the damage just by equipping this card. Or
Are
you
these
can
like for just that mission, or how long do these things last?
no. So yeah, they come with you as soon as you unlock them. They're there with you to the end of the game. But like, there's just so many. Like
I
I'm
see.
still finding them. Like
Nice.
by the end of the 27 hours of the campaign, like I was still finding cards that are really cool. Like there's still things I haven't discovered, but there's other ones that you can throw. Electrified ninja stars. You can throw you can throw like chemical bombs. You can throw molotovs. You can do all this, and then like you add these skill cards that like extend the fire duration
Right.
or like
Modifies those things. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like it's stuff like that. So it's a cool system.
Nice.
Like the skill trees are great and all, but like I like that the fact that you can mix and match all these skill cards to make your own personal like survivor or slayer as they're called in this game. And
Right.
it shakes up a lot of things
So
because
is
there's just a
every
lot of
single
versatility.
card, yeah, so it kind of reminds me a little bit, different system because it's only like per run essentially, but Back for Blood had that, the card system thing where
Yeah.
like, you can kind of build your set per run, and then as a team you sort of say, oh, I have this bonus, why don't you take that bonus, like that. I really like that aspect of that game. That was all temporary. So this, if it sticks with you, are you ever finding the same card twice and it sort of
No,
like
I don't.
multiplies?
I don't
Oh,
think it does.
okay.
I've never found anything of that. There
Oh,
are cards that are kind of similar, so like they might do
right,
so they might look similar, but they might have like a different like I guess like resistance or like
right.
differently a different genre, like not even genre, like one might do the same thing, but it might do one for fire or one for chemical or one for a shock. So like they're similar enough to that point, but
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun.
it's cool. Like I like it. It's a stunning game. I know that um there's a lot of contention. It's a Unreal Engine 4 game, so like for what it is, it's a gorgeous game on PlayStation 5. Like I've had
It looks
no
good in
issues
the
with it.
trailers, even like all the gameplay trailers and stuff, especially in screenshots, like for sure. It looks great. So,
I think it's probably one of the better looking zombie games in a long time. Like I
nice.
dropped off dying. I said on social media, like I dropped off Dying Light 2 really fast. Like
Right.
I tapped it after 5 hours, and like I don't know why. I've tried 3 or 4 times to play through it, but it never clicked with me. And then as soon as I launched up that 2, I was like, this is what I want. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously. You're literally
Yeah.
just you're booting it up, you're having fun. The characters are making jokes, and like they're they're making light of the situation. And I like that about it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
not everything needs to be like end of the world serious.
Dark and grim and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
like
having fun with it.
I'm playing as a gigolo who's making jokes about like getting laid when he gets back to civilization. And it's like that's great. Like, I love that. Like I know
Yeah.
it's not everyone's cup of tea, but like that's what I kind of wanted from Dead Island, because I mean that's what the original game was. It was a light-hearted, open world RPG set on like this 5-star resort, and I think it was like Benoit, which is like a fictional city. I love that,
Mm,
but they take that, they kind of lay some Easter eggs out for people who are returning, and like it bridges just enough to make it feel like everyone feels welcome. So like returning players and new players, like it's a great game. I mean, the only thing I can say is the story is kind of, I don't want to say mid, but it was pretty basic. I mean, it's a typical
right.
zombie game where you're trying to basically you find out you're immune. All these, so any character in this game that you're playing as is immune to the virus. So like you get bit, you can
You're
take a
fine.
couple of bites, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're trying to find you're trying to meet up with the military to basically get a vaccine ready for you. So that's basically the whole premise, and then it kind of unfolds off there from there. But under
Nothing
embargo
crazy.
still for
Yeah.
story spoilers, right? So like that's basically
Okay.
all I can say. But like it does enough, but like it's very late. It's very late in the story. I mean, clearly it's a zombie game. The developers wanted to focus on the flash system and the combat, and they nailed that spectacularly. It's probably one of the
Good.
greatest
Good.
zombie games I played,
Nice.
and yeah, definitely worth checking out. I know it's a little bit expensive in Canada. I think I'm seeing prices at like $94 here in Canada, but
Yeah, it's a full price thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's more expensive than the average retail price now because our games in Canada are about $89 at launch. It's a little bit more
It's,
expensive.
yeah. 79 plus tax is over $90.
Well, not
So
even that. Like even newer games, like first party Sony games and stuff, are $89 now.
it's wild, man. It's
It's
wild.
crazy,
Hey,
but
but
like
the people that developers need to get paid. I get it. It's just it's hard. It's hard for the consumer, right? It's a
100%
whole
Canada,
yeah.
everything's just it's hard to justify the prices, especially given with all that stuff that's happening in Canada now. But I mean, when the time is right, pick up this game. If you see it on a sale, it's worth it. I mean, I really, really like this game. I
I'm definitely more.
really,
Yeah, I'm personally more interested just based on what you're saying and reading part of your review. I didn't get through the whole review because I was reading it and then I was like, oh shit, we got to record. But yeah, I'm definitely more interested. So you've almost completely sold me. So I'll tell you that
there's some
much.
cool weapons. Yeah, and like don't forget, like it's like I said, it's a zombie game. There's just a lot of fun weapons to find. Like you're always crafting new cool things, like shock katanas, or I found a golf
Yeah.
club that I added. I found like I can't remember what it was. I think it was like oh geez, I can't remember. But it's basically you can equip like I don't want to go into because there are like stuff you find later in the game that you can add to your
Yeah.
weapons but like there are cool things you can do with weapons. Like you're there is weapon durability, so if you're against that, don't worry too much. Luckily, the thing is with this game is you're always finding cool new weapons. Like you might
Yeah.
find a
Right.
zombie who drops like I found one that dropped a shotgun, and then his partner dropped a brand new katana or like like a makeshift sword, or you're always finding really cool weapons. Like you break them and then you're like, well, whatever, I've got 6 other cool weapons that are right there, and then you can
Right.
always just repair them. Like you're always repairing this. I read an interview with the developer saying like, hey, like we know that not everyone likes weapon durability, but our focus was cool weapons and how to use them, and just
And
being the shit in the
variety.
zombies, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like they're like, the whole thing is, do you want to repair your old favorite weapon, and do you want to keep exploring and finding new favorite weapons? Because that's what happened. Like I was storing a couple weapons in my storage, and I was like, I'll come back to them. But then I found stronger, better versions that had elemental stuff like fire or shock or poison or whatever. And I was like, well, these are way better. So like, why am I hoarding?
Right.
And I know
Right.
it's broken, right? So like,
Man,
there's
I get
not much
into that
to
habit
try.
with games too. I do that all the time when it comes to games that have that type of system. I'm like, oh, I'm going to hold on to that, and then either I forget about it or I realize exactly like you just said. Oh, well, I got the new one. I'm going to keep using the new stuff because
Yeah,
it's awesome.
exactly. So
Yeah,
like they found a good balance for that. Like
that's good.
there are games like Zelda. I know people always compare it to Zelda Breath of the Wild because that weapon durability system is either make or break for a lot of people. But for me, it's better than that. Like they found the right balance of old versus new, and like it stands to be one of the better durability systems I've seen so far.
Nice, nice. Well, that helps. That's good. Um, that is Dead Island 2 and Dredge. Those are the two games that we've been playing. And before we get into the Nintendo Indie World stream video presentation that they put up earlier today as of this recording on April 19th, I want to mention that I didn't just play games. I don't know if you knew this, Bobby, but I can read. I don't know if you
I
knew that.
I wasn't aware of
Um,
that because I
yeah.
still don't know how.
Exactly. Yeah, I know I'm learning. It's a process. It's really difficult,
I've
but
lost the ability. I know how it feels.
honestly, right? Every time I go, every summer or spring, if I am going, my wife's family, I'm lucky enough that they have a family cottage, so we go there a decent amount in the summer and stuff. I always sort of pick a book or two that is usually pretty nerdy that I sort of spend my time reading. Since we went away for a week, I was like, you know what? I got the perfect book. It's going to set me up for the next Star Wars video game. So Star Wars uh Jedi Survivor. Am I getting that right? I
Yep,
always
that's the new
yeah,
one.
that's the one that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to play that. Very excited for the story and everything that they've sort of talked about with it. But there is a book that sort of meshes the first game and the second game and takes place just before Jedi Survivor comes around. It is Jedi Battle Scars. I'm showing it on the video right now. It's about a 200 to 300 page book that follows the gang from the original game and from the new one on a couple of like adventures and does a lot of really great character building. And I think there's a decent amount of story and character moments and stuff in the first game for sure, but you're still sort of
Right.
getting to know everybody. And this takes place, I think they say it's roughly 3 or 4 years later, and then the game is 5 or 6 years after the initial one. So this one goes on a couple of different, missions that for kind of are successful and then go down. Typical sort of Star Wars and sci-fi and action sort of
Right.
setting like that. Not everything goes perfectly because that's how it goes. But through all of that, there's a lot of really good banter between the characters. There's a lot of great explanation of some of the background of some of these characters that you didn't get a chance to get in the first game. Whether that's Cal or any of the other characters, it's really does a really good job of that. So I think it's great that to read, and if anyone has, if a 250 page book doesn't sound like too much of a undertaking over the next couple of weeks before Jedi Survivor comes out, I highly recommend
Right.
reading this. I think you'll get a little bit more of an appreciation for the characters and what's coming in the story, at least. I don't think it's necessary reading. Like, I don't think you're going to like not understand what's going on in the game. It doesn't sound like, but it really does a good job of having you appreciate all the characters and some of their background and where their relationships are going into the game, because things do develop even just in just this book, even though there is a larger time frame that takes place sort of around it as well. So Jedi Battle Scars, that's the book that I picked up, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good time with these characters and has me even more excited for the game now. So thumbs up for that. Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now. I don't. I'm surprised there's no audiobook. Like they have the perfect cast to
Mm,
make an audiobook for this game. And
yeah.
what like I'm definitely gonna check it out because I mean if it's like you said like 4 years after Star Wars Fallen Order, I
Yep.
might as well check it out because it looks pretty cool. I'm just looking it up.
Yeah, they reference like missions that they've been going on over the last couple of years. Like they sort of say things like that throughout it, whether it's text in between dialogue or actual dialogue. So there's still a little bit of a history that isn't told, but that's okay. It just goes ahead in the future for a little bit at the end of the first game. They reference things that happened in the first game, so you can sort of
Right.
place what their mindset was and why they may have done certain things and sort of, especially towards the end of the game, especially with Cal and what happens to him at the end. I won't spoil it if anyone hasn't played that game.
Right.
The sort of end sequence there, they reference that a few times and really sort of understand how they've dealt with that going forward. And I'm interested to see where they go with a couple of relationships in this based on what they set up in this book. So I think they're going to do a lot of that in the game, or they could potentially do a lot of that in the game. And I think they're going in the right direction with the character moments. And I hope the game picks up where this book left off. It sounds like it's a roughly leaves off maybe a few months or a year before the game picks up. So it's really good. Jedi Battle Scars. Check it out. It is a book available now. I can read. Yay me.
Go learning.
Go learning.
Go
Go words.
learning.
Um,
Go words.
So Nintendo Indie World is the latest stream that Nintendo has put out there. You can find all that information, the actual stream itself, on the Nintendo YouTube page, but we also have a write-up at consolecreatures.com as well with all the trailers that were available. So it's an easy way to sort of find them all in one place and all separated as well. So you don't have to sit through an entire 20-minute or half-hour stream. I just wanted to mention it because I wanted to mention a couple of like highlights, at least for me personally, and some of the bigger, I would say, games that were sort of released. First and foremost, I want to mention Tesla Grad 2, which I played in a preview month and a half, 2 months ago or something. And at the time, they said it was going to be released in spring of 2023. During this presentation, they shadow dropped it. It is available right now. So you can play Tesla Grad 2 right now, and you can also play a remastered version of the first one. That's also available in one package or separately. So it's a really cool platforming game that uses a lot of elemental and I guess you could call it electric and magnet sort of technology. Check out the trailer, check out the article. We have a quick write-up about what it is currently and the fact that it's available now. It's a great, cool looking indie game, has a lot of style. I had a great time with it, even though the preview build, I think it was roughly like an hour and a half, was pretty short, but it felt good. So I'm excited to try. I'm excited to play this game in full. So that's Tesla Grad 2. And of course, I have to mention a game that has been on my most anticipated list for the past 3 years in a row. It is Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. I absolutely adore the first one. I've talked about it a few times on the podcast. I won't go too deep into it, but you know, the studio was acquired by Netflix a couple years ago. I don't know if that had anything to do with the game being delayed or changed, or it's business. Sometimes it just slows down the process.
It could be COVID, it could be anything, right?
COVID, a lot of things, right? Totally fine. It is what it is. Yes, I wanted to play this game 2 years ago when they announced it, but hey, it is what it is. So I'm really excited. They have an announcement date for this. It is July 12th. So this is, I was telling someone over Discord, I was chatting to someone that I've podcasted with previously, and they said, "Oh, hey, did you see the trailer? Did you see the announcement?" And I said, "Yep, this is the one game that's probably going to get me to stop playing Diablo in the middle of July." So
yeah, seriously,
this is going to be the one. So I'm very excited for this. I don't remember, Bobby, did you play the first one?
Years ago. I have to go back, but it's been a long time. I think, when it came out, I mean, everyone was talking about it. I was like, well, I have to check it out. And I ended up liking it. I completely forgot about it. I honestly couldn't tell you what happened at this point, but
fair enough.
I have it on my iPhone through Netflix, so I'm going to check it out again. Thankfully, it's part of the subscription, right? So if you want to check out the first one, just boot off Netflix, go into the app, and just find it and load it onto your phone or tablet or whatever. But
it's sort of like it's in the style of or the gameplay style sort of is kind of like the old LucasArts point and click adventure type games, that sort of 2D, but with much richer style, amazing voice acting. I think the voice acting is incredible, and the writing. I love the music. It's one of my favorite soundtracks. So I can gush about it all day, but I'm very, very excited for the sequel. And they have been almost silent on this game for over a year. Now they have a release date, and I'm very excited in a few months when it comes out. So
I wouldn't say the recent trailer, but there's that one where they're on the boat and it's maybe the reveal trailer. That one kind of caught me. I was like, this looks incredible. Like, what's the first one about? That's what I was like. That's why I was like, I gotta go back and play the first one.
Yeah.
They do. I like Night School Studio is a great studio. Like, I love their games.
Yeah.
But my favorite game by them was After Party. I don't know if you ever played After Party, but
I have a vinyl of the soundtrack because I love their games and their music so much. And I don't even have a record player.
That's the problem I'm thinking, because I want to get vinyls too, because I want to start playing.
So I have it for eventually when I have one. So yes, exactly. After Party is awesome. It's a lot of fun.
It's my favorite game. Like just the way it unfolds and like the premise of it. It's such a great idea, but
kind of like what Dead Island was for you. It doesn't really take itself too seriously in a really like
at
great
all.
way.
But like it does go. You know what? Surprisingly, it does take itself seriously, because it's just depending on your choices.
Right.
It can either be a serious game.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but yeah, it's a great game. If you haven't played After Party, check that out, because you still have got you've got 3 months until Oxenfree comes out, so you have time to play Oxenfree and After Party, and then get ready
Yeah.
for Oxenfree 2. Because
Yep.
really, indie games are the best way to kill your day.
Yeah. Honestly.
Just play indie games. Play indie
Yeah,
games
it's
all day.
great.
That's
And their stories are really like compelling. And their writing I've always found is really great. It has like a great balance between being serious and being funny and witty and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm really excited for that. And I don't know if you I can't remember if you said that you played it or not, but Blasphemous 2 looks really interesting. Did you play the first one?
I did. Also a game I played 3 years, 2 years ago. It's actually 2 years ago. Great little game. I mean, it's if you like those like Souls, Metroid. Let's coin a term, Soul Troid, because it's one of those
Soul
games.
Troid. Okay. All right.
It's like a Soul Troid game where you've got that deep combat, and you have like those unexpansive worlds with like interconnecting ins and outs. Like it's one of those games. Like
Yeah,
it's a
it's
cool little
2D, but
game.
it's also it's 2D with really difficult sort of mostly melee combat. Yeah. Yeah, so not too long ago, I guess it was 2-3 weeks ago on the podcast, I talked about playing Escape Academy for the first time and really really enjoyed it. I've played one more session since then with my buddy Mike and we're still really enjoying it. We're going to keep going. I think we have like I don't know, like 3 little sort of sections of the story left. Now Switch is going to get the complete edition, which has like all the DLC and things like that. Man, this game is really fun. So I'm happy that more people get to play it, and that the DLC is included too. So it's pretty sweet. It's like their
Yeah,
complete slash game of the year edition, whatever they want to call it, director's cut or whatever. So it's a great game. I think it kind of went under people's radar a little bit, and it did for me too until we recently played it. It's great. It's really I highly recommend it. It's really
I
fun with a
didn't
friend.
know. I didn't know about it until you told it, and like it's one of those games where I had to wish list. Like my wish list is growing as big as my backlog, so it's like, oh
Right?
god.
I know.
But I'm gonna check it out. If it's coming to Switch, that's perfect for me. I play my Switch more than even my consoles these days. Like I'm just finding more and more. I like handheld gaming. I don't know if it's just the convenience or it's just the games, but
Yeah.
I prefer it maybe. But yeah,
I don't know. The only thing that I was sort of thinking because I've played it now and I sort of see how like it works and I think I remember telling you guys how you can kind of see the other player's screen like
right,
vertically or horizontally like split screen. I don't know if handheld if that's going to work as well because you do have to look at some details and everything because the screen's going to be so small. And it's not that the text is small or any of the details in the game itself are, but
right,
it's just smaller real estate. So I think you could take it on the go, but to play it online with friends or coach co-op with someone, I think is where the game really shines.
right,
And uh, you don't have. I don't think not that you have to play it on a TV, especially if you have like the non the one that doesn't have a dock or anything. But
right.
I think seeing more is probably better in it. But it's a great game regardless. I still think it's something that people have a lot of fun with. Really easy to control, so it really doesn't matter what console it's on, if it's handheld or not. So that really works. Yeah, Escape Academy is really fun. So that could be a really nice like surprise standout. I think so more people can play it. So um, and then I think we have to mention the studio that brought us Crypt of the Necro Dancer. It is
Yeah,
Rift of the Necro Dancer now. This is more of a more not typical rhythm game, but it has sort of like a timeline, unlike their other games. Um, that's all rhythm based and everything, and music based. So this looks really cool. I don't know. I mean, the style and then the way that the other games play is awesome. So it's hard to ignore this one.
I can't say I actually ever finished it, the first one.
I
So
only played the first one. I didn't play the Zelda like the Hyrule one. I did
see,
not play
Steve
that.
played that one. He was gushing over it.
Yeah.
So I mean, cool. Like I'm gonna check it out. Like just the trailer looks incredible. Like I do like what
Yeah.
they're doing with it, but I don't know rhythm games. Like it's not like I have bad rhythm. I don't enjoy them as much. Like even Hi-Fi Rush. Like I'm playing through it slowly, but like it didn't catch me like everyone else.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's
It-
it's. I think it's just
Different
me. Maybe it's
approach,
just
but
me.
still.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's to say, I think I'm not very good at them, but I find them fun, which is kind of like
They
where
are fun.
Hi-Fi
Like
Rush
they're
sort of
so much
sort of
fun,
meet.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Hi-Fi Rush kind of like the one of the points of that game is that it tries to do like a middle ground where it's not too difficult. It also lets you succeed even if you're not great at it. And you know, that's kind of why I think maybe
Right.
it flowed with me better and everything. But that's fair. It's totally fair. Not every game's for everybody, so it is what it is. But it looks pretty cool. Very stylish like the rest of their stuff. Anything else that tickles your fancy on this list here?
There is a bunch. So the first one they showed was Minako's Night Market, which looks so cute and incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna pull up the description because, like, really, I mean, I just saw the trailer. I learned nothing about it. I still have to go back and watch the whole showcase, but let's read it together. So basically,
I
it's from Humble
now we know I
Games
can
and
read, so yeah.
Meowza Games. I've never heard of them, but whatever they're doing, I like it. Minako's Night Market is a game that celebrates Japanese culture while introducing a heartwarming story about friendship, tradition, and many, many cats. So it kind of reminds me of Beacon Hill. Is that the one you played?
Uh
Not
Beacon
Beacon Hill.
Pines.
Oh,
Beacon
Beacon
Pines.
Pines. There's another game
Yep.
it reminds like just the art style. It's like kind
Yeah,
of like the
yeah, yeah,
Cult of the
yeah.
Lamb. It's a
Yeah,
mix
yeah, a
of
little bit.
I can't remember the game was. It's like geez, what was that game where you were stuck on an island? It's like you have to survive together. Man, it's gonna bother me.
Like don't don't don't
Don't
starve
starve, maybe. Yeah, don't starve. It kind of reminds me of
a
Don't
little bit.
Starve.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
But
little bit
like
of a
that one
mix.
caught
It's a
my
mix of
eye.
all of those. The style is fantastic, honestly.
I love the style. That's what caught my
Yeah,
attention. Like
it's
right
really
away,
cool.
I like that. And then there was Bomb Funk Cyber Rush, which is like a Jet Set Radio sequel. Like I wouldn't say sequel, it's a spiritual successor.
Yep.
I really like the art style in that game. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. But I mean, that looks incredible. It's coming soon, so really you can't go wrong with more of that kind of like I don't know, cyber futuristic,
Yeah, it's awesome.
whatever you call it. But yeah, and then there's obviously well, you mentioned Oxenfree 2. Chance of
Yep.
Sinar looks great, which kind of reminds me of Journey from that game company.
Right. Another
Uh,
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Another Five Nights at Freddy's. Like there's Brotato, which
Available
looks
now.
hilarious.
Dude, Brotato is surprisingly great. It's I wrote it down. It's because I've played it very briefly. There was like a demo, I think it was, that I played.
Right.
Because I don't own it, but it is like Vampire Survivors, but twin stick shooting, really.
Oh, beautiful. I like
Yeah.
that.
So it's a little bit more active, I would say. It's not quite the same game, but it's that style. I would say twin stick Vampire Survivors is sort of like a way to play it, but it's awesome. It's really fun, really goofy. Yeah, it's worth a shot. It's honestly, I think it's like $4 or $5. Like it's super cheap or something.
I'll have to check it out. Like
I could be
honestly,
wrong in the exact price, but it's really fun.
I'm I'm just going through the list right now. I think I want to play every single game that they announced today. Like Primal Clock.
It's
I have no idea what that is, but it looks cool. Animal
Yep.
Well. Like
Animal Well, which I think we've seen before, but it looks so crazy and interesting.
exactly. And then you have the Cult of the Lamb DLC, Relics of the Old Faith. Like I loved what Cult of the Lamb last year, and
Yep. And
really I
that's
can't
out in a
recommend
couple
that game
days,
enough.
and
Yep.
it's out in a couple days and free, so everybody gets it if you own the game, which is
Exactly.
awesome.
So like, and there's Shadows and Overloathing. Like, there's so
Mhm.
many cool little indie games that are coming to the Switch over the next like 5-6 months that it's really like, who has the time to play all these? Because they all look incredible. Like
I
everything
will
that was
make the
shown
time,
today.
Bobby. I will make. Don't worry, everybody. I will make the time, and I will do my best to review as many as I can. I promise.
I I'm gonna try to be there with you because like
Yeah.
these little games are probably what keeps me going and playing games. Is just, it's not the big games anymore. It's all these little indie games that are like 10 hours that they have something original, something cool to
Yeah.
keep you hooked. And this is why I like Nintendo. I guess this is probably why I like my handheld the most. It's these little games where I can just play on the couch. I think this is
Yes.
that's
Yes.
my answer. It's being
That's
able to play these little indie games on the couch while I'm watching TV or something.
Yep. Yep.
But
it's a big plus. I mean, there's lots of ways to do that with the Switch, whether it's something new or whether it's, the Switch Online games and stuff. But like a lot of these games, they're sort of meant for these sort of like bite-sized 20-minute, half hour, 10-minute experiences, and you'll get something out of it. And that's great that they're, a lot of these games aren't just on Switch, but if they are, it's almost like they're meant to be. And that's awesome.
It
I love
feels like
that.
that, exactly. That's probably
Yeah.
the best way to say it. It's meant to be. But yeah, honestly, today's Indie Direct Showcase was pretty spectacular for indie games, and I'm glad that they're supporting the initiative so much, because
Yeah.
like you don't see it as much on PlayStation anymore. You don't see it as much on Xbox, even though I know they both have their indie programs, but I mean Nintendo's pretty good with their consistency in
Yeah.
supporting these smaller games and developers.
Yep, and it's just a great way to find them, and a great. What's nice about these games too, like specifically for like a Nintendo platform, is that their first party games are almost never on sale, and when they are, it's like, oh, you saved $3, what a deal! These
Yeah,
games are
that's the
most.
kicker.
That's it. So these games give you that sort of like that opportunity to play something great and unique on Switch that doesn't cost you $80 to $100. You can get 3 of these games sometimes, or 2 of them, for that same price and have an amazing time. And that's why I think it's a great thing to pay attention to stuff like this when they pop up, because you're going to find some sort of gem in there that you didn't know you wanted. Like there's going to be something in here, like Blasphemous 2 caught my eye. I didn't even know that there was a 1, and number 2 caught my eye, and I'm really excited to try it when it comes out. So there you go. Already I got something on my wish list, on my watch list, that I'm going to sort of pay attention to, just based on what I saw today. That was like, 45 seconds. So yeah, it's a cool place to have this stuff. So we'll look forward to all these games, and couple more reviews coming down the pipeline before next episode, so we'll tease ahead to that a little bit. But consolecreatures.com, sir, is where everyone can find our good stuff, and online some handles as well. I don't keep track exactly what they are. What are they again?
I mean, when you're still got that vacation fog, I can't blame you. So that's fine.
It's hard, man. It's tough.
It's okay. It's Console Creature, because we can't afford the S on Twitter anymore, because Musk doesn't want to give us the freebie.
The
Console
the
Creature.
free S.
Console Creature on Twitter. Instagram is Console Creatures, and Facebook is Real Console Creature, because that's just the way things happen, I guess. I don't know. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Somebody decided that was what we are going to do years ago. So you'll find us. We're on. Check out our LinkedIn tree or whatever that thing is, and you can just find us there.
Yep.
Plaster over my profile.
Exactly. So find our stuff online there, and reviews at consolecreature.com, and news items that pop up each and every day. And also, again, I'll say it again, YouTube channel. A lot of the games that I'm reviewing, especially indie ones, I try to take gameplay videos as well. So it's not just a trailer that's attached to the article, not just something that you have to go search for. You can just go to our YouTube channel and watch those as well. It's usually about 15 to 30 minutes of gameplay of like the first sort of like half hour of a game, which is a lot of fun. And also this podcast will also be available on YouTube as well when this launches. But until next time, everybody, thanks for joining us. Bye.